Greetings, dear chess fans and experts. This is FIDE Master Max Omariev with you. Today, we'll analyze the 13th game between Yan Nepomniachi and Liren. After a devastating loss in the previous game, Yan enters the battle with the white pieces. However, Ding has prepared an unpleasant surprise for him. In the 12th game, there was a devastating loss for Yan Nepomniachi. He was almost in tears during the game due to a very unfortunate blunder. Everyone wondered in what state he would enter the next encounter. Let's see how he managed. The Spanish opening. Nepo enters the battle, no quick draws. He plays in a maximally principled manner, castling, bishop e7, d3. These moves have been seen before. After bishop b5, bishop b3, d6. Here Nepo plays a3. It's important to safeguard the bishop in this situation. White should either play a3 or a4, or c3 to have some room to retreat. This time Nepo goes for c3. Castling, h3. A prophylactic move against bishop g4, as the pain could be unpleasant. Bishop b7, bishop e3. This move is actually a novelty. The bishop is not usually developed here so quickly. Typically it's kept for better times. More often white chooses the following plan. Rook e1. The knight moves from d2 to f1, and then it may even go to e3 and d5. That's its straightforward path. It's still not entirely clear where to develop the bishop. We can move it to g5 as Nepo has done on several occasions and then trade it off on f6, or it can go to b2, so bishop e3 is the result of Yan Nepomniachi's own preparation, but it didn't really impress Ding. He quickly played knight a5. c5, all according to the standard, black captures space on the queen's flank. White doesn't react to it at all, moves the b knight to d2. Rook e8. Black is preparing for the invasion of white after d4, or they want to play d5. a4, h6. A prophylactic move to keep the bishop away from g5, and Nepo plays d4, striking the center. He didn't wait because a passive strategy, for example, after rook e1 could lead to big troubles. Black plays bishop f8, knight f1. If we lead the knight like this according to the pattern, yeah, with the pawn on h6, it's pretty tempting to move the knight to f5. But in this case, black instantly strikes the center. d5, and after ed, knight d5, black has an advantage and the pieces are more active. This bishop here falls under the attack of the knight. The position is not the most pleasant, therefore Nepo strikes in the center, plays d4. Ding takes a few times. And Yan captures this pawn with the knight. It's a logical decision. We're attacking b5 and also aiming to move to f5. And here Ding makes the most accurate move, c4. The white pawn and the bishop come under attack. He's ready to take on d2 to eliminate the defender of the pawn on e4. Once d2 is taken, let's say, with ab, black has the option to capture on d2, but of course it's better to capture on e3, disrupting the pawn structure of the white pieces. I'm just trying to explain this idea to you. I mean, this pawn is now hanging. So Nepo really wants to get rid of this knight, and he plays knight takes c4. The move has certain flaws though. Maybe it would have been better to opt for bishop f4 in that situation, creating a simple trap. It would seem that the b2 pawn is hanging, but if it gets captured, then after queen b1, black would be down a piece. For instance, on knight c4 would capture this knight and take the bishop on b7. The same goes for knight a4, we would capture the bishop and have extra material. That's why on bishop f4 we should calculate the knight d2 variation. d2 is taken, the central pawn gets captured. Yeah, that sucks, but we can win it back on b5, and we end up with a pretty good structure. The d6 pawn is under attack. The knight can maneuver through c3 to d5. The position is equal. Yes, black has two bishops, but they're not that active, and the pawn on d6 is weak. The position is equal. However, perhaps equality is not what Yan Nepomniachi had in mind. He wanted to play more ambitiously. But after this trade-off, he should have opted for queen e2, a very useful move. The pawn is attacked and white's rooks can now cooperate. What's next? Well, rook c8, the most logical move. Then we could play f3, followed by rook d1, rook c1. It would be a similar consequence to what happened in the game, but executed in a better way. After bishop f8, we can play rook d1 on d5, knight f5. Some actions start to take place with potential sacrifices in the queen eyeing g3. The position becomes more dynamic. Nepo chooses to play f3, immediately protecting the pawn on e4. However, there's an immediate response with bishop f8, and it turns out that the white center is in danger. After d5, it's going to be shattered. Nepo plays bishop f2 to ensure the safety of the knight in case of d5. Well, it's quite challenging to find a good move in this situation. After knight f4, for example, d5 and e5, if we're trying to close the position, this pawn will drop. After knight d7, rook e1, and queen c7, we have no way to protect it. On queen e2, there will be bishop c5. I mean, we're completely tied up here. We can't capture both because the bishop and queen are hanging. White's in big trouble. The position is tough. That's why Yan decides not to get involved in that and plays it safe with bishop d2. Then comes the strike in the center with d5. He takes. And bishop e4, black gains an advantage. They have more active pieces. The pawns on b2 is weak, the white king is also a bit vulnerable. But then comes the unimaginable move, rook e5. It's a very strange decision.
Because I missed queen d4, it's a very powerful move.
After rook e5, I managed to deal with things. I didn't like queen c7, rook d8. Why play rook e5? Go for rook b8, emphasizing the weakness in the white's position, particularly the vulnerable b2 pawn. Additionally, this move helps protect the bishop. From this position we can relocate the knight to another square, which was previously not possible due to the threat of the bishop being captured. The rook to b8 move is advantageous in multiple aspects. Alternatively, he could opt for queen g5, taking a more aggressive approach with the idea of knight f4 and a checkmate. These moves at least follow a logical line of thought. The rook e5 move is something wild. It gives away a significant advantage. After rook c1, the pawn is under attack. Ding protects it with rook c8, and knight e2 is played by Nepo, which is also not the most accurate decision. He should have gone for queen d2 to double the rooks on the d-file. This way the white's position is more or less solid, but it's unclear what the e5 rook is doing. On rook g5 we can always play h4 to kick it away. Yan plays knight e2, seemingly aiming to trade off this active knight, and queen e7 follows, which is also not an accurate move. Queen e8 could give black an advantage. It's pressing on the pawn here, and most importantly, it's not blocking this bishop. The bishop is free. After queen d4, which was in the game, we have bishop c5 and it changes the situation completely. The queen's under attack, the active bishop gets traded off. Black has the initiative. But after queen e7, Nepo makes this move, queen d4, a powerful solution. And now the bishop can't go to c5 as you can see. So what's next? There's a threat to capture the pawn on c4 by the way. How do we defend it? There's no knight b6, if we play queen c7 we'll get bishop g3, well maybe not right away. Black will most likely go for bishop c5. Queen c7 is overloaded. White can take on c4 anyway. The queen's got too many things to care for, it defends the rook and the pawn. So we end up with extra material here. That's why Dean gave it a good thought and decided that he needed to force things forward. He plays f5, sacrificing the exchange. White can't use the bishop because the knight will hang, but white plays bishop g3, attacking the rook. Rook takes e4. Ding sacrifices the exchange. He also could have done that this way, say fe queen e5, but he decided to go for a more reliable option. He sacrifices the exchange and gets a pawn as compensation. He has quite active pieces and a position of dynamic balance. That's a way to characterize it. Ding plays knight b4. Now this move is somewhat imprecise. Bishop e7 would have been a better choice. The bishop could have maneuvered to f6 and exerted pressure on this pawn, and the knight here blocks the d-file, preventing the rook from infiltrating. After knight b4, Nepo intrudes on d7, seizing the advantage. Bishop c5 check. Bishop c6 kicks out the rook from here. Its only available square on the 7th rank is c7. That's exactly how Nepo plays it. The rooks are exchanged, the c4 pawn is under attack, so Ding defends it with bishop d5. Nepo attacks the bishop, but knight d3 is a strong move. The rook is under attack, so it needs to retreat to c2 to protect the pawn. Bishop c6, the bishop stands monstrously here, defending the pawn and exerting pressure on a4. So white has extra quality, but black has very good compensation. Their active pieces are all placed practically perfectly, plus they have a powerful pawn. Nepo tried to do something here, but in fact, he made a wise decision in this situation, forcing a threefold repetition and agreeing to a draw, because you can end up pretty bad in this position. Somewhere along the line, the pawn on b2 will fall, the e-pawn will advance, and considering the bitter defeat in the previous game, it's a good respite for Yan Nepomniachi. Yesterday I had a feeling that something went wrong. Today it gradually faded away. I guess my mistake was to play d4 in the opening, which allowed black to equalize quite easily. Afterward I found myself in an unpleasant situation. Well, it seemed defendable, but I had to suffer, so after rook to e5, I don't know, somehow move after move I managed to defend, and in the endgame, I don't know, maybe there were some chances, but I couldn't find them. And I thank you for your attention. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, give this video a like, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to keep up to date with all our latest videos. Keep playing and studying chess, and I'll see you soon.